So I'm going to just read this little passage about the first time I remember hearing music. We were living in Emory, South Carolina, so I was either 5 years old or younger, but I vividly recall this. I'll share it with you. The first time I can remember feeling or being drawn towards music was when I first heard Susie Burnett play the piano. Sue Burnett was a retired mill worker who lived just outside Emory on the old highway going to Woodruff. Sometimes Mama would drive us all out there just so we could hear her play. I can still hear Susie's soft, smoky voice calling out, "Why, hey Martha, how y'all doing?" Susie was a widow. At least that's what I've always heard. She had a grown son somewhere. Anyway, she lived alone. Her house was built up on red brick pillars so that the underside was open to the outside air, which made an ideal roosting place for the chickens that were always pecking and scratching around in her yard. There were 5 or 6 hens and a rooster. The rooster was easy to spot with his colorful plumage and tall stature. I remember one time stepping down from Mama's station wagon, and that rooster came charging across the yard at me, and it about scared me half to death. He was huge, huge to me anyway, because we were about the same height. He ran right up to me, stopping suddenly to turn his head so he could look at me like with one eye, like chickens do. Chickens can't look at you with both eyes. They have to use one or the other. Y'all already knew that. I can tell this is a smart crowd. Anyway, when he fixed that fierce yellow eye on me with all those red combs around it, I grabbed a hold of Mother's skirt and started shrieking like crazy. Susie came over and shooed him away. "Go on now, get," she said. Then she took me by the hand. "Come on, hon, let's go inside and we can have us some fun." Susie was a natural, self-taught player, and when she sat down and started pounding out a honky-tonk rhythm on that rickety old upright of hers, it was like nothing else in this world. The piano was never in tune, but it didn't matter, because Susie was. She'd look right at you and smile while she played, and when she'd tear into Down Yonder, I would get so happy and excited that my whole body would start pumping in rhythm with the music. Down Yonder was my favorite. It was everybody's favorite. Now, right before we all moved up to Spartanburg, this is one more memory from that time. I remember one summer evening, after supper and before dusk, a bunch of us neighborhood kids were out on our front lawn trying to cut cartwheels, catching lightning bugs, making clover necklaces, just doing the typical things that kids in the South used to do in the summertime before there was TV. As it began to get dark, some of the kids started drifting off home. Pretty soon it was just me and Gene Crocker sitting at the top of the steepest rise in our yard. Gene was 13 and different from other boys his age. While they were out butting heads playing football, Gene was in his homemade greenhouse raising orchids. Mother once said Gene was a genius. That was the first time I ever heard the word genius. She also said that he had read the entire World Book Encyclopedia twice. Gene and his sister Martha, everybody called her Mott, and their parents, Pat and Clyde, they were our next door neighbors. Gene and I were sitting there watching the stars come out, when out of the blue he asked if I knew what infinity was. "No," I said. "What is it?" "Well, it's when things go on forever and never end. See all that black up there around the stars?" "Uh-huh." "Well, all that black just goes on forever. There's no end to it. It's infinity." I thought about that for a while, but my brain didn't want to go there. In fact, it hurt my brain to think like that. So I said, Well, what if it's a black wall up there? I mean, it could be a wall, couldn't it? Okay, let's say there's a wall, Jean said. So what's on the other side of the wall? Suddenly I saw infinity, and it hurt my brain so bad that I burst into tears. I should have known right then I was going to be a writer. But it would be another 20 years before I'd see infinity again.